Okay, we are now live streaming. Okay, so I will carry on letting people in as they come. We're live streaming. So I would like to welcome you all for tonight's combined boards info session. We'll be starting with the annual plan, which Tessa will talk through with you all, followed by local water done well, which Brent will speak to. If you could save any questions to the end of presentations, that would be appreciated. And if there's any follow-up questions that anybody would have, please do feel free to email them through to me after, and I shall endeavour to get the responses back to you. So just a reminder, we are live streaming onto YouTube, and what I will do is hand over to the lovely Tessa, who can talk to you about the annual plan.
Thanks very much, Emma. Kia ora koutou. My name is Tessa Zant. I'm the Engagement Manager here at Christchurch City Council. Hopefully most of you know me by now. I will run you through the consultation that we've got planned for, or that is underway on the annual plan. In terms of the content of the annual plan, hopefully you've all got sessions, either had sessions or got sessions booked for community workshops with Crystal from my team about the actual content of the plan. So I'll be going over the consultation. Emma, if you could just enable screen sharing for me. You're on mute if you are saying anything.
I'm talking to myself.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to. There you go. Will that work, Tessa?
Beautiful. Thank you. So hopefully you all can see the slide deck there now. Just going to, apologies, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second so I can move onto a different screen. Oh. Great. Sorry, I got a small amount of, apologies everyone. I'm just going to set that up in a different view. Emma, are you still able to see my screen?
I can't see it now.
Sorry, I think it froze trying to share it at the same time. Apologies, everyone. Bear with me.
Are you winning, Tessa?
Yeah, no, I'm not. There we go. Yes, right. Can you all see the screen? Sorry, so now I can see my click-throughs as well as the screen. So consultation has obviously started on the 26th of February. It's running through until the 28th of March 2025. So just a quick snapshot of what we're trying to achieve through the consultation. We want to obviously raise awareness about what is being proposed and encourage participation, making sure that people know exactly how they can provide feedback. And the question that we're really asking within the consultation material is, as an annual plan 1 year out from the LTP, are we on track? Tactics, all of the information is available online on our normal consultation channel. We also have a hard copy. This includes large print documents. So we have A3s of both the draft annual plan and the consultation document at all of our libraries and service centres. Where we have libraries and service centres joined together, the information is normally at the service centre. We also have a pop-up display that I'll be able to share with you a few slides from now, and we're making use of all of the usual channels. There's some advertising going on at the moment, and as I mentioned before, we've got those community board workshops to help inform the community board submissions. So this is what we look like online. The web page I have here, and it's got absolutely all of the information. This is where you can find out what's happening at a ward level, those ward-based sheets. You just click on it and you can access further information specific to your ward or community board. It's also got all of the parts of the consultation document itself. You can click here to get further information about some of the activities within the annual plan. And we also have a video library where everyone can see exactly how the decision made was to adopt the draft. Down here, we also have our day in the life that people can flick through. And you'll see under all of these drop downs, there's an absolute plethora of information, so people can go as deep as they would like to. There is an ask a question form here. If anyone feels that they don't have all of the information that they need, having gone through our webpage, they can still ask for more information. And then of course they can click through here to make a submission. We again have the Bubbles budget tool. Hopefully most of you are familiar with this now from long-term plan 2021, I want to say, was when it first came in. It's been really successful. So far in the last week, we've had nearly 2,500 people visit this site. So just as a reminder, I'll take you back to that page. Click on through here. So we'd fondly call these the bubbles. This is a visual representation of our capital program. As per the other times, we've got the different colours representing different budget streams within council. The size of the bubble is the size of the budget. Now, this is the budget for the annual plan year, so that's 2025-26. What we've done this year, which is different, is the hollow bubbles here are showing projects where we have a dollar change within the next financial year. So you can see here for One New Zealand Stadium at Kaha, we have a change in budget, as we do here for the sludge plant. Whereas when we move over here, the budget is the same. So people can start clicking through these bubbles, something that they find interesting. I'm not sure that program for mains renewals is the one, but they can click on it and get this much, much deeper level of detail. We have all of the financial years now displayed, and this bar chart at the bottom displays how that budget is changing over time. So in the dark blue, we have the current budget as it sits within the long-term plan, and in the light blue, we have the draft budget as proposed by this year's annual plan. Hopefully that all makes sense. Or what I should have actually showed as well there is if people do go straight to the bubbles tool and decide that they have all of the information they need, they can also click straight through. So if I click back on one of these bubbles, apologies, they can go straight through here to make a submission if they wish to. If that's all the information they were after, they can click through, or else they can return back to our webpage. So just trying to make it as user-friendly and navigable as possible. So yes, the usual channels are up and running, Newsline and our social media. What we have found so far on the social media channels is that we've had relatively low engagement, fewer than a dozen comments or shares on the 2 posts that we've done so far. And to put this into perspective for you, this is fewer than we've had so far on the developer contributions policy, and plan change 20, which are both out at the moment as well. So I think it shows that the relatively low proposed rates increase and there being no big ticket items as such in the proposals is starting to have an impact, or is having an impact. And we've also had relatively little media coverage so far. So I'll be interested to see if this changes over the consultation period. This is what it looks like in advertising. So we've got some bright screens, and that's the bright screens that we have in our rec centres, libraries, and service centres. And where we don't have those available, we're putting posters up. There's advertising on Meta or Facebook, for those more familiar, advertising in the press and your local papers, and there's page banners, as you can see across the top there, that should be going into the press, and an advertorial that was run on the 27th of February. So this is what the print documents look like in your libraries and service centres. We have supplied the submission form separately, as we always do, so that people can read the consultation material or the draft annual plan itself, leave those in the library and service centre for the next person, and take a submission form away if that's how they would like to provide feedback. If you do notice that stocks are getting low, or even that they're just down to their reference copies, let us know and we will get more sent out pronto. And this is the new consultation stand that I mentioned earlier. So this is replacing, this is for the bigger libraries and service centres, obviously, where they have room. It's currently set up in New Brighton. And it replaces our homemade displays of previous years using tables, paper, print, and blue tack. So hopefully it has a lot more impact, drawing in customers to take a look and find out more about the annual plan. And the great news is we can move this display around the city. So hopefully you spot it at your local library at some point. The board in the front also just in terms of cost savings and being mindful, the board in the front can be swapped out for future projects. And for example, we do have another set currently out advertising the local alcohol policy, and that's set up in Hornby if you wanted to check it out. Now, this infographic of the day in the life, it shows how your rates are spent, and it received the most positive feedback. I think we did a social media post last year for the long-term plan that used this. And there were so many comments underneath talking about how it really demystified for people the activity that council does, really helped them just understand the breadth of the and depth of the work that we do. They also liked the cheeky humour in there as well. So I could definitely recommend that if you're speaking to someone who has a relatively light understanding of council activity, then this is a brilliant illustration to use as a starting point. It is in the consultation document, I think about 4 or 5 pages in. So I was really glad to see that reproduced for this year. So are we on track? So these are the matters that we're really asking for feedback on. Hopefully most of you are relatively conversant with these by now. Pausing the collection of the targeted rate for the cathedral, obviously with the build there put on hold, there are question marks around whether or not we keep collecting that rate. Increasing rates for infrastructure renewals. This was something that was also discussed as part of the long-term plan last year and not pursued due to the high rates increase that we faced already last year. Opportunity to reduce or cut services, or any opportunity rather. So just inviting general feedback if people have any bright ideas about what we could be doing less of. We're keen to hear it. How the draft climate resilience fund will work, how that money will be allocated going forward, and also request for a $5 million grant to the Air Force Museum over in Wigram, and a small proposal to allocate money, I think it's 200,000, for a scoping study for the Central City Shuttle Service, which we know a lot of our Central City residents, myself included, remember fondly. So next steps, as I said, we're open until midnight on the 28th of March. The hearings will be in April. It's a very, very quick turnaround as per usual. And the adoption will happen in June with the plan coming into effect on the 1st of July. This is just a slide to draw your attention to, and I'm sure you're all very much aware, it's an extremely busy market at the moment. These other citywide consultations are out currently. We are, where we can, communicating with our key stakeholders, letting them know that we're aware of how much work or how many projects there are out there that they can be making submissions on, and trying to just provide as many links and offers for assistance where we can. So just to let you also know, we're aware of the amount of work that we're probably asking some of our key stakeholders over this 6-week period. And yeah, we're mindful and grateful. And that's my presentation done. Any questions? Apologies again about the delay. Mark?
Yeah, just want to thank you for your response with the digitally challenged community I've got out in Hornby, and really hoping to see that collateral arriving out there, and I'll keep an eye on what's there through time.
Yeah, hopefully you got our email, Mark. There should be collateral there as we speak.
Yep.
And yes, fingers crossed it disappears and we need to restock it.
Yep, no, hopefully it does, because yeah, there is a large community out there which don't get online, so it'd be good to keep that in their face with the hard copies. Are we able to get hard copies as elected members as well, so that we can go and sit in the local shopping malls and do some canvassing?
Always. Your governance team should have a small stash that they can share with you. But if those have run out, again, just let us know and we'll get those out to you.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Is that Debbie's way?
Yeah, it is. Sorry, I couldn't find where to put my hand up. Thank you for that, Tessa. I'm just wondering, it is a big consultation, and we used to go out into the community as part of the public consultation process to answer the public questions. And like Mark just said, it's an opportunity to engage with the public and to help them understand perhaps the document a little bit more, because it is quite it's quite a thorough document and can be confusing and overwhelming. So is there going to be any of that going out into the community?
So I'm trying to think if you've had yours or not. So there should have been community workshops that booked for your area. That's either being held. It was joined up with the local alcohol policy workshop to try and make it more bang for your buck. In terms of going out into the community, that's something that you're always able to do. Mm-hmm. From a resource perspective, our team put a lot of emphasis in the long-term plan. So, hopefully you remember a couple of years ago, the What Matters Most campaign. Yeah. That was extremely far-reaching, intensive, and we really got great reach into the community at that point. So we're focusing on our long-term plan, and then in the annual plan, the 2 annual plan years in between, where it's an adjustment of what's already been approved, we pull it back to those community-based sessions. But that said, we're really happy to provide information and collateral for anyone to go out and engage the community.
Right. Thanks for that, Tessa.
I think that a question was asked about, can the slides be provided? Absolutely. Yeah, I can send those through, Emma, later.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if there's no further questions for Tessa, feel free to message through to the governance teams if there are local things that you need to ask. Alternatively, you're most welcome to send any questions round to me. So thank you. Thanks, Tessa.
Thanks all. Good night.
Great timing, 20 past. And what I will do is invite Brent to jump on board. Again, if we could save questions until the end of the presentation. And I'm going to hopefully share my screen so that you can see Brent's presentation. Just bear with me.
Oh, perfect. It was much better to get it done for me than try and attempt to break Zoom myself. Hey, I'm Brent Smith. I'm the General Manager for Infrastructure for City Council. So just thought I'd give you a bit of an update and a bit of a briefing on the local water done well work that's been happening. You may or may not have seen it on the council agendas. There's been a lot of work done, including a very detailed interim business case. But we'll flick through the slides and give you a bit of background on it and let you know where we're at before we go out for consultation this Friday. So next slide. So yeah, give it a double click, the rest of it might come up. So the local water done well is the new legislation that replaced the old Three Waters legislation from the previous government. So what they're asking for is better oversight and economic and quality regulation of Three Waters delivery. You will have seen things playing out in the media over the last few days around Wellington Water and the problems they're having there. So it sort of underlines the government's move to try and get much more consistency across the country and ensuring revenue sufficiency and balance sheet separation, just basically in ring fencing, so that the money that is collected for water is spent on water, basically. Next. So here's our time frame we're working through. So back in February last year, they repealed the old Water Services Act and then fairly quickly moved to do what was called a preliminary, a Water Services Preliminary Arrangement Act. And that gave us an indication of the direction things were going and told us that we were having to start to pull together some fairly significant documents. Then towards the end of the year in December, they announced another bill, and that gave a lot more detail around things like economic regulation, the powers of the water regulator, a whole lot more reporting, and a bit of work that they're doing on standardising wastewater standards and stormwater standards across the country. Jump forward into February 2025, staff, we've pulled together the indicative business case. By legislation, we had to prepare different business models, whether we do it in-house or put it out to a CCO, such as, a similar sort of thing to Orion. So we've done that work. We've taken it back to council with a whole lot of analysis, which I'll go through, and then that's about to go out to consultation. When that comes back in, we'll analyse that, hold some hearings, and refine where we can, and report back for hopefully adoption in June. That gives us through till September to prepare the final water service delivery plan, which is a one-off document saying this is the model we're going to do and this is the financials, and we are able to live within their means, basically. Next. So the core requirements of the Preliminary Arrangements Act, the first one to come in as part of the Water Service Delivery Plan, was to detail up what we currently do. So a lot of that was already existing in our activity plans and asset management plans and LTPs. And you're probably also aware that we have a 30-year infrastructure strategy. So we had a lot of the information already sitting there, and we've had to pull that information together and start to pop it into a format that the Internal Affairs wanted to see. So we've got to outline our financial and operational strategies. And as I said before, once it's been through council, we have to get that back to Internal Affairs by September. Next. So as I said, it must include our proposed water services delivery model, plus any others that we think that people might want to comment on. Next. The water services bill fleshed out the framework, and we had to choose from a list of models that were available. So the in-house or delivering services directly, which is pretty well what we've got now, and that's where we have 200 staff in-house delivering all the three waters, and we contract out a lot of the delivery through to City Care and others. Second option was to transfer it to a water organisation, and that's setting up another CCO or council-controlled organisation, and that has a separate board of directors, no elected members allowed. Sorry, Mark. The idea behind that is they would be solely focused on water. You could always, another way was to contract with third parties for service delivery. You still retain governance and pricing control, and that's with an example of that would have been if we'd have gone in with another council to form a joint CCO, a regional CCO. And some of the other options available to us are down there as well. There were also options looking at ones owned by community trusts and what have you. Each of them had a different set of criteria. CCOs were allowed to borrow a lot more money, but of course, as soon as you borrow a lot more money, someone's got to pay for it, which ends up being the ratepayer anyway. So the reason the government brought in these options were for those councils that had already maxed out to their debt limits. If a water organisation is used, it must be a company. It must be owned by councils, consumer trusts or otherwise. Only do water and have independent boards. Another interesting little trick that's come through from it is that those companies also have to move to volumetric charging within 5 years, which was a nice little thing they slipped into the bill. Next. So what we did is we've done a comparative assessment. We did an assessment on the advantages and disadvantages of all of those different options and came down to a short list of 3. But basically what we did was looked at how each model would affect rates, debt, service levels, and any other on charges or costs for consumers. So, and one more click, please. So the first one we looked at was, as I said, keeping in-house, and that's direct control with council's existing structure. So that means the council still has control over the levels of service, much the same as we do now. There just have to be a few tweaks. Next one is a single water services council controlled organisation. So that would be one solely owned by the City Council, only providing water services to the Christchurch district. And the next one that council asked us to look at was a 2 waters CCO. So they thought, well, if council indicated to staff that if it was going to have to go to a CCO, they did want to keep stormwater management in-house. So that would remain as a business unit. The rest would go to a council-controlled organisation. It'll be 2 waters, which is water supply and wastewater. So what happens if we keep water services in-house? As I've said, governance stays within council. Funding comes from existing revenue streams, such as it does now. So that's a split of water rates, which are part of your normal rates, borrowing for capital works, and making sure we financially ring fence so that the Commerce Commission can check to see that we're being transparent. We determine how the services are charged, so we can do it through rates, volumetric, targeted, whatever. Currently, we don't do volumetric charging, just excess water. And what doesn't change is accountability still is for the council to comply with the regulations, which come under Te Mata Arawai and the Commerce Commission. The CCOs, this and the hybrid model are pretty similar in their things, in independent governance structure, professional boards, idea being that their sole focus on that would provide better delivery. Assets may remain under council or transfer to the CCO. Some modelling we've done suggests that the assets, while still owned by council, would be under the ownership of a council-controlled organisation. For those of you who are worried about that, there are provisions in the bill to say that the water services assets cannot be privatised. Funding separated from council operations, so they're allowing the CCOs to borrow up to 500% of revenue. Now, currently, our council is allowed to borrow up to 280% of revenue. So with the modelling we've done, we've worked out we don't need that extra headroom. But there are a number of councils around the country that do need that. And as I say, the charges must shift from a rates or value-based fee to volumetric pricing. And next one is very similar. It's a hybrid model, so it's a bit of a mix of the two that I've just described. And next one. So we considered these. These are the ones that we didn't consider because at the time, looking locally, Selwyn District Council, for example, we're looking at maybe resurrecting a South Island wide entity. They've actually opted now just to go with their own. Waimak, Hurunu and Kaikoura were contemplating going together, so we didn't pursue a regional water entity, and we didn't do initially we didn't do anything about collaborating or formal shared service agreements between councils. However, we have signing an MOU with Dunedin to look at how we can work together and collaborate and on what we have to do to meet regulations. And then the consumer trust model is a trust governed by community representatives, and we didn't go down that track either because of the change. Again, they weren't able to borrow up to the 500%, but there didn't seem to be any advantage in going down that route. So we did a strategic assessment and we looked at value to ratepayers, regulatory compliance, financial agility, service delivery and operations, governance and control, community expectations, implementation feasibility, and we'll keep going. And what we did is we did a sort of a 1 to 5 score on all of those, going, well, is it a critical issue or does it have really good alignment? And we have got a lot of information. There's a detailed business case sitting with the council report, and there's a link to it in the consultation document. Next. So we'll just flick through these, but it gives you a comparison here, and we'll share these slides. It gives you a comparison as to how we assess the different options scored against things. So again, value to ratepayers, they all scored a 4 out of 5. Regulatory compliance, very similar. Financial agility, so here you see that because of a higher borrowing cap, the CCOs are deemed to be more financially agile, even though we are in a strong financial position anyway. Service delivery, all fairly similar. Governance and control, this is where full council oversight, we deemed that was more likely to align with the wider council strategic goals and the ability to influence levels of service. Community engagement expectations. The in-house model is aligned very well with business as usual and our current processes. We didn't feel that the CCOs would rate as highly in that area. Implementation, obviously high setup costs if you're wanting to set up a separate company. So that's why they rated lower with that. Obviously less risky to carry on with the status quo, even if we have to tweak it a little bit. And putting them all together with those strategic assessment findings, the in-house model did come up high scoring. Not a lot in it really, but when you think about in terms of hearing community voice, and governance, it was certainly a lot stronger. So we're going to be really interested to see what the community thinks when we consult on this. We did do a whole lot of financial assessments and findings, and we'll probably flick through these reasonably quickly. Thanks. Mainly because they all scored very similarly. There's not a lot of difference. There's a little bit of setup cost at the front end for CCOs. Potentially there's some efficiencies long term with the CCO, but there's very little change when you look at the business case. There's I find it very hard to see much difference in between the different options here. So just keep clicking through these, please. And there's a bit of a, just a roundup advantages and disadvantages of each. Financials don't really change, but strategically, the in-house model appeared to come out best. Financially, they can all meet revenue sufficiency. The in-house model keeps things reasonably steady in terms of rates, and even though we have a constrained borrowing capacity, but we have sufficient here in Christchurch. And potentially with the CCOs, you have more investment capacity, but of course there's higher, the more you borrow, the higher your debt servicing. So someone's still got to pay for that. And some key milestones. I think this might be the last slide. So again, this is what we're having to do. We're going out to consult currently, step 2 there. That'll be going out until the 6th of April. Then we'll have some hearings, and council will decide in June on a preferred service delivery model, which we will then finalise and get up to the Department of Internal Affairs in September. So that's all we have for now, and hopefully we've got some questions. Debbie, I think you might be first.
Thank you for that, Brent. That was very good. Now, obviously, keeping it in-house, regarding drinking water, this obviously covers drinking water as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so does that make it easier, like I saw on your slide there, that it assists better with what the Christchurch people want and that sort of thing? So does it make it easier for us to get to the point that we were wanting years ago, becoming chlorine free and fluoride free? Yep. Because there's a lot of concern out there in the wider in Christchurch and wider Christchurch because of our water. So does that make it more manageable for us to do? Because this is what we've wanted for a long time.
I'll answer that in a couple of ways. First of all, this set of regulations is about how we provide the service, not what we provide. So what we provide is already regulated through Te Mata Arawai. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The second part of the question is, would it be easier for us to, I guess, work in with and challenge things? In my opinion, I'm going to give you a probably on that. And the reason I say that is a council-controlled organisation will have a sole focus of delivering on water services and complying with regulations. To deliver safe water services in terms of public health and safety, they will be required to continue to chlorinate to achieve a level of compliance. And there would be, I would argue, there would be little incentive for them to change that, because change always comes at a cost, and they will have a role to play in that. We, as an in-house unit already, have been working closely with Te Mata Arawai, and for the last year have been doing investigations into our deep wells. They're the ones that are Aquifer 4, I think about 150 metres down. And it's not too far away. We'll be reporting back to council on the findings of that, which is how good is our source water. Now, the source water, there's a whole lot of different sets of rules. There's source water rules and there's distribution rules. The source water rules, if we find that it is as clean as what they are hoping, and their scientists are hoping that, then we won't have to treat the source water. The reason we currently treat the distribution, to meet the distribution rules, is partially because of the continued state of the network. We would need to prove that bugs couldn't get back into the system once we shove it into the pipes. So it'll come out of the ground nice and pure, but as soon as you go into the pipes, you are subject to breakages and things like that. So I think we would be in a better position as an in-house unit under the direction of council to continue to try and achieve exemptions than a CCO might be. And that's a bit of personal opinion there, but I think that would be the key drivers. I think you have to look at the key drivers to the different models. One will be very much community focused in delivering on water. The other will be, I will meet the regulations.
Thanks.
Does that answer it a wee bit? Yeah.
It does. It does.
Very non-committal.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I understand, we've had previous discussions on this, so I hear where you're coming from on that. So thanks for that, Brent.
Yep. And I think, and before anyone asks, we still haven't been, you may have heard in the news, some of the councils up north fighting against fluoridation. We have not, in Christchurch, we have not been instructed to fluoridate the water yet. But I am sure the council will have a strong position on that when it comes. Is that right, Mark?
So okay, so that's yet to come. My question is on that, whilst you've raised the fluoridation, is why do we feel a need to?
It's the government changed the rules on that, and it becomes a Ministry of Health directive. It's controlled by the Director General of Health now, and they made a decision that they were going to fluoridate all New Zealand's waters. There have been, I believe in the news, a couple of councils that have tried to fight back and were still instructed to do so. So I think that's something that some of the political parties are looking to introduce some changes to, but I don't know timeframes on that. It's a public health thing.
It's a shame when it becomes a political issue. But
that's right. Yeah. Nothing we can do.
No, exactly. And I am concerned because I have heard a previous councillor say that there is no way Christchurch would fluoridate because they are aware that adding fluoridation to a chlorination, as chlorination is already in the water, that it creates more of a toxic substance.
Yeah, I don't know, can't comment on it. I would have to get a scientist to comment on that.
Yeah. Oh well, I look forward to the outcome of your deep well.
Yeah, I think it's good news, and we don't need to do that source water treatment, but we'll just wait and see.
Yeah, and so you'll be letting us know on the results of that.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be getting Te Mata Arawai to come down and present their findings to council, and we'll make sure people know about
Wonderful. Look forward to it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Now, all of this information, there's probably better information going to come out on Friday. There's links to the detailed business case. There's links to a lot of information from DIA. So happy to take it. If you've seen any questions through your local governance teams, we're happy to answer those as well.
Are you happy for me to share the slides as well?
Yeah, they were a bit of a cut down from the last set we took to council. There was a whole lot more financial information there, but happy for you to share them on their own. People may have questions, but they may not understand them either because they sort of flowed through. But as I say, there was a lot of no accountants listening. There was a lot of really boring financial slides there. So okay.
That's great. Thank you ever so much.
Thanks, everybody.
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming along. And if there are any questions, governance teams, or feel free to come back to me. So I thank you. And we're only 5 minutes over, so that's quite good.
So, Emma, where will this end up? Oh, it already is live streamed on YouTube.